We're at war with the food industry. She says, like, if your kids come over to my house, no, they're gonna eat 9 Oreos.
Not my kids. We've become so soft that someone would even accept that. Everybody knows that that's not healthy for you. But if you are too critical of that, then you're fat shaming or you're the bad guy. Like, no, this stuff is poison.
I'm 43, I can run just as fast, I can jump just as high, I can fuck just as well as I did when I was 22. I want that for as long as I can maintain that.
You know, everyone has one main responsibility that you're born with, and it's yours forever, is to take care of yourself. No one else is going to take care of you. If you don't apply some discipline and take some responsibility for that, it shows real neglect and weakness at times.
I don't take days off. I have to wake up 7 days a week and start my day doing something impossible.
Welcome to another episode of 10 with Ken. My guest today is my friend and YouTube legend, Casey Neistat.
Tell him I'm a good runner.
He's an awesome runner. We're going to talk about his broken foot and why we're doing 10 reps instead of 10 miles. We're going to get into a lot of topics, including Casey's journey with YouTube, his journey as a runner, his love of his marriage, and a whole bunch of other exciting topics. Thanks for being with us. Boom.
So yeah, I mean, whenever I get to the gym, I always start with pull-ups.
Me too.
And my rule is like, I have a pull-up bar in my office, and then every day in the gym, doesn't matter what I'm working out, I do pull-ups. But I only do, usually it's like 5 is where I cap it and really try to keep the form perfect. And then in between sets, I try to do 5 more.
Yeah.
And the goal is like, if I can do that, I try to do it 20 times a day. So at the end of the day, I'm at 100 pull-ups. Usually it's like half that. But if I do that, it always feels good.
Pull-ups to me are like the great truth teller. There's nowhere to hide. You're either doing them or you're not.
Right.
And you can fake your way through it, but it ain't easy.
Nope. And it's also like, you see like the biggest bodybuilders and they can hit the pull-ups, and you see like the skinniest rock climbers, they can do the pull-ups. There's no, it's body weight.
That's it.
So it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how big your muscles are.
Bang off some of these.
See, I have to use this straight bar, Ken, because I have a broken foot and I can't jump up.
Oh, damn, I forgot about that.
So
Use that thing.
I have to put a step here so I can climb up. The one thing I can't do, and then when I drop, I have to drop and land on one foot.
Oh.
Injuries are the absolute worst.
Yep.
I hate it. It's just like as if training isn't hard enough. You got an injury on top of that you gotta try to navigate around.
That's one of the things with aging is, you know, I wouldn't say I'm more prone to injury, but they take a lot longer to come back.
A lot longer to heal. And then it's also what I call bullshit injuries. Now, as a kid, it's like, if I'm not in the hospital, I'm going. And now it's like you get these, like this current break, it's a hairline fracture and like metatarsal here. It's like a nothing.
Yeah.
But I can't articulate my foot.
Those little things, those little annoying injuries like that will get you every time.
Every time. What percentage of the American male population, adult male population, do you think can do one pull-up?
Very low.
You think it's 50%?
No. No way.
One single pull-up.
Think about 50% of the people that you know and what they look like.
You know, it's just, I live like in New York City. It's impossible to get around unless you're using your body.
100%.
So my 9-year-old daughter has an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Do you know what her average daily step count is?
What is it?
13,000. She's this big. There's just no way for her to get around.
Kids
so she has
funny,
to
though.
walk to class. She has to do all that.
You forget how resilient kids are. If I ask my kids, like, hey, buddy, do me a favor, get me something in there, they run. If you said to me, if I wasn't working out and you said, hey, run over there, I'd be like,
yeah. How?
And my wife would be like, what's the matter with you? I'm like, if I'm not like loosened up and in that mode, I'm like stiff as a board.
Yeah. So it's in New York City, I feel like it's a little bit of an anomaly. It's probably the best walking city in the country. And because of that, I think people here are like we don't, at least in this part of the city. And when you get to the Bronx, you get to outer boroughs, there's a lot of food deserts there. It's hard to get good food. But here it's like you get good food. Like a lot of people in New York City are fairly fit. But when you leave the cities, you're right, you start to see like what an obesity epidemic looks like in real life.
It is fucking crazy the way the lack of interest people have in their health. You know, I think it's easy to lose sight of when you're in these circles where you're taking care of business and getting after it. But you take a cross section of America, like not many people are like taking care of themselves. It's not surprising that we have the health problems that we have.
So the New York Times had this story, it's like a week or 2 weeks ago, and it was like not just health weirdos like me, but I found a lot of people that were upset with it. I found a whole Reddit thread upset with it. And the name of the story was like, "Let them eat ellipses everything." And it was written by this woman who is obese. She's like a big woman, and she's a mom. And it's like a body positivity book. And her whole sort of position is like, I let my kids eat whatever they want because it's the only way that they're going to figure out their own limitations. And it's all this justification. And the Times, to their credit, you know, they would like counter her with being like, you know, there's a very real obesity epidemic. When the woman's like, you can be healthy at any size, they're like, the New York Times would then say like, sure, but the top 10 causes of death in America are all exacerbated by obesity. And I'm reading this story, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is not an okay message to be sending to people when you're talking about ultra-processed foods, and this woman is promoting it in a way that's like almost a position of defiance. And I agree, like no one should ever be shamed for how they look, and everyone should be supported and feel good whatever their body looks like. But this idea that you should celebrate eating, like there's one thing and she says like, if your kids come over to my house, know they're gonna eat 9 Oreos.
Not my kids.
You know what's in a fucking Oreo?
Not my kids.
You know
I promise you
how toxic
they're
that
not.
food is?
We've become so soft that someone would even accept that. Like, you're being very diplomatic. I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's nothing healthy about this. If you're smoking cigarettes, is that okay? Because that's just as fucking dangerous for you as having this kind of an unhealthy diet and being that overweight. I sympathize with them, but to celebrate it and be like, it's okay. No, it's not okay. I understand that you have an addiction to food and that sucks. But to suggest that it's okay to be, it's not. There's nothing about it's okay. I don't want you to feel down in the dumps or try and shame someone.
That's right. You don't shame someone. But like my hardline position on it was like, the reason why this is totally fucking misguided is that in the most extreme of terms, like we're at war with like what is like the food industry. Like their goal, we live in a capitalist society, like their goal is to make as much money as possible. People like food that's like salty. Like, have you ever had a fucking Pop-Tart? They're delicious. Like,
yeah, they're the best.
They're the best. Like,
but I eat it like I treat it almost like drugs. Like, do I feel like indulging in this?
It's absolutely a drug when you eat that stuff. And like, we as a people are constantly at war. Like, you have to say no to that. So to celebrate, no, just take all that in. I think there's a naivety there that discounts just how impactful the advertising, the branding, the colors. Look at the fucking Fruit Loops box, and then look at the organic, no artificial color one next to it. Like, that's what we're up against. My kids point at the one that has Mickey Mouse on it. Like, that's what you're up against. And that's what's so fucking frustrating about the article, is that there was this gross naivety, as if like we're all just impartial people walking through a garden, and if you choose to pick 2 tomatoes, that's fine. It's like, no. Like, to be healthy in America in 2024 requires making 100 decisions a day that embrace health and lifestyle over indulgences.
I feel like we're living in the time of the emperor has no clothes. Like, everybody knows that that's not healthy for you. But if you are too critical of that, then you're fat shaming or you're the bad guy. Like, no, this stuff is poison. You eat enough of it, it's like poison. My kids, when they ask, Dad, can I have a snack? Sure. What can I have? I said, if you can have anything that you can tell me what's in it without looking at the label. Number one, if it's in a package, it's probably not great. And number two, if you can't tell me what the main ingredient is, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what's in an apple? What's in a banana? Yogurt is yogurt. It's like milk products, right? But when they're like, well, can I have one of those, healthy kids snack bars? I'm like, what is in that?
Sure.
That's not to say they don't have it sometimes, but when they ask me, can I have this? Mom might let them, but I'm like, no, you can have anything that is like has one thing in it. Nuts.
Yeah, it has its place. We go on road trips, kids get McDonald's. Like, I like junk food too.
My kids eat that stuff, and I'll eat it sometimes too. But you have to recognize that
it's a treat. It's not food.
That's exactly right.
It's not food. Yeah.
That's not a meal.
It's exactly right. I saw this internet meme that I wanted so bad to like, but I couldn't because it's like mean. But what it was a picture. There was like an animation that showed just like an artery that was wide open, and you could see there was like molecules, blood flowing through it, and it was like a fit person's what a fit person's veins look like, arteries look like, and then beneath it was an artery that was like just filled with cholesterol or whatever the fuck clogs up an artery, and then it was like a body positive person's artery. So it's like, I get it, and I understand the body positive movement to push back against shaming, and I believe in that part of it. But this idea that like healthy at any size, when you're talking about people that are objectively obese, and to celebrate that and encourage that, I just think it's a terrible message. Like, you know, it's and I empathize with that because I know people who have struggled with that, and it's super fucking real.
But the people you know that are struggling with it certainly aren't celebrating, leaning into it and being like, yeah, I don't care, your kids are having 9 Oreo cookies. That would be the day that my kids have 9 Oreo cookies. That would be something where they'd be like skipping school. Like akin to skipping school. Dad, I skipped school today. Dad, I ate the whole box of Oreos. Because they know I'd be like, what? Like, dude, like... Life isn't just about do whatever you want.
Saw my friend Daniel yesterday, and Daniel's like 5'6", and he's built like a brick shithouse. Just this enormous guy, and like a year and a half ago, he sort of like just started lifting weights. And I remember noticing, I was like, Daniel, you losing weight? Like, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, I'm exercising now. And the thing is about Daniel is that he loves food in a way that I'll never understand. Like, he loves food, and I respect those people. For me, I'm an idiot with food. I don't care. I just don't want to be hungry. But for him, he loves restaurant life. He loves nightlife. He's a gay guy, and his whole community is about going out to dinners and celebrating. Like, that's his thing. I saw him yesterday for like the first time in 3 months. It was 85 degrees out in New York. He's got his shirt unbuttoned. He's got the tan, chest hair out, jawline that could cut glass. He's got like 4 necklaces. Like, fuck, you look good, Daniel. You could say fucking pecs sticking out like that, just jacked. And for him, it's been like a multi-year journey and a complete reimagining of his whole lifestyle. And like, you see him now, he's a completely different person.
He's probably never been happier.
I've never seen him happier. He's never looked better. But the point is, like, he didn't Ozempic. He didn't take any shortcuts. He did the fucking work. He shows up in the gym every single day. And because of his body type, he can't go run. He's not that body type. So he found his thing, lifting heavy weights.
Yep.
Fucking diesel.
I love that. When I see people getting after it like that, it makes me happy. It gets me high. I'm like, yes. Because I know that addiction to food, because I had the same addiction to drugs. And when I see someone who loses all that weight, it's the same thing as someone who got over a drug addiction. I'm like, I know how hard that was. I know how hard it was to be like, I so desperately want to get high, I feel terrible for a year, or however long it takes to get everything out of your system. And just to be like, oh God, I just want a day off, let me just get high. But one day leads to 1 month of addiction. And the same thing with eating. It's like, I ate good all day, let me have a piece of cake for dinner. And the piece of cake after dinner becomes like half the cake. Because I do that sometimes, like I lose control. And so I sympathize with people that struggle with a food addiction. But at the same time, we can't celebrate the fact that don't even worry about it, keep doing it.
If it makes you happy, keep doing it. It's like the price that you pay for that.
Same thing
so
with any addiction.
With any addiction. It's funny, I like smoking weed. Like, it's a good drug for me. It chills me out. I'm a very like tense guy. But like I eat junk food if I smoke weed.
Yeah.
So I don't smoke weed because of that. And like, I talked to my dad, who was like a hippie in the 60s, and he's like, oh yeah, the munchies are hereditary. We got that. So, but like a few months ago, I don't know where I was fucking off, and I was smoking a bunch of weed and stuff. And for me, when I smoke weed, I stop paying attention to what I'm eating.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just inhale a whole thing of M&M, like I'm just not paying attention. And my wife, to her credit, this is like a tantamount to what our relationship is like and why I adore her so much. But I remember, this was like, I have the date written down in the calendar, so I took a picture of myself in front of the mirror. I was like getting out of the shower, like drying my hair, like wrapped a towel on myself, and I like walked by her in the bathroom, and she's like, Casey, and I turned back to her, and she's like, you're fucking fat right now. Jesus, you're fat.
There's nothing you could say that would be more hurtful.
Right, and I back up and look in the mirror, and I was like, fuck. She's right. And it was like, then that was it. I was like, all right, I can't smoke weed anymore.
There's something rewarding, though, about seeing someone have that kind of accountability and be like, yeah, you're right, this is unacceptable. Your body is your resume. When you meet someone new and they're like, damn, dude, this guy takes care of business. Or when you show up all disheveled and like out of shape, it's like, I really don't care about my biggest priority in the world, my own physical and mental health. Like, I just don't care. And because when you're feeling sloppy and out of shape, at least for me, I don't know about you, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with myself.
No, it's true.
And it's like, this is an overriding theme going on with me. It's like, I know I have to take care of this and it ain't easy. This is gonna take a lot of work. So as I've gotten older, I've become more on top of it and try not to let it slide. Because then once in a while when you do eat McDonald's or do have dessert, you don't feel like, ugh. But when I'm down in the dumps and I'm already in bad shape, I'm like, fuck it, I'm already in terrible shape. Let me eat this stuff.
Completely. When you're eating poorly, it's so easy to continue eating poorly. When you skip days, it's so easy to keep skipping days.
Just like an addiction, man. If you're in your addiction, you wouldn't think like, I'm not getting high today. You're like, I'm a drug addict. I get high every day. Like, you know what I mean? And when you're eating bad like that, it's easy to just let it be like, I'm gonna stop Monday.
Addiction is a word that is typically attached to like a lot of, it's stigmatized as it should be, because addiction typically means one thing, but there's another term called hyperfixation.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not a drug guy, I'm not a drinker, I don't do any of that. So like addiction is something I don't know, but hyperfixation, my own form of addiction. Like I'm incapable of being a casual runner. I can't go run 2-3 days.
Same.
If I'm gonna run,
Yeah.
let's go. 70 miles a week, as fast as I can go. Like if I want to be fit and I'm going to exercise in the gym, like I'm not going Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
That's right.
Like I'm in this gym we're sitting in right now, 7 days a week, twice a day.
I know exactly.
I'm like, go home. I come upstairs at 11:30 at night, and my wife is like, "What the fuck are you doing down there?" But it's like, so that same hyperfixation can absolutely extend to like eating junk food. Like I literally live on a block that has a grocery store, and you go into a grocery store and it's like the healthy lean salmon is right next to the box of cookies.
Yep.
And like you have to make that decision. And if like you're in that hyperfixation where I'm just like, fuck it, I want to eat what's good, I will always grab those cookies.
Yeah.
So it requires like such a level of focus. And like the same thing that can take you over when it comes to addiction with negative things, you can redirect that. I've been able to redirect that towards things that I really think benefit me physically.
Yeah, I can't go to the grocery store when I'm hungry.
That's
I'll
a great rule.
Every bad choice.
I
won't do it.
I like to eat before I go to restaurants.
That's a good call too.
Otherwise I get irrational.
I'll overeat on the bread appetizers, and by the time the entree comes, I'm like, oh, I'm just forcing this down at this point.
Yeah, I mean, eating at home is my favorite thing. Just
I
sort
agree.
of feel in control.
I like the act of going out to dinner, but the food, it doesn't like get me excited like it used to. I'm like trying to make good choices, and there are not a lot of good choices when you go out, unless you go to a specific restaurant catering to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Want to do some bench presses?
Yep. Flat bench or dumbbell?
Let's do incline dumbbells.
Yeah. Incline presses and then incline curls are two of my favorite exercises.
Yes.
Those are exercises I do every day. Especially incline curls. I feel like it makes it impossible to cheat.
Yes.
When you're in that position.
I heard Lance Armstrong talking the other day about his own fitness journey, and he said, I'm training just to be able to show up and do whatever workout friends are doing.
Oh, that's good.
And that's like my new rule as well. It's like, whether it's rock climbing or bike riding or running or swimming, I know just enough to be able to hang.
That was my singular objective in learning to surf.
Oh, I see you surfing. You're a good surfer.
Sure, thank you. But I only wanted to be good enough at surfing that I could show up and paddle out into a lineup and not embarrass myself and not have people be like, what are you doing out here? And just let me get past that threshold where I was able to actually surf. I found to be super helpful as I have like these great resistance bands from Amazon that are $30. It's just like one nice resistance band with two handles on it. And what it means is like I never travel anywhere without it in my bag.
Oh, I never thought about that. I have those at my house, but I never thought to bring them with me.
I have one, and like if I want it to be like 30-pound curls, it's like this.
Yeah.
If I want it to be 40-pound curls, I put 2 feet on it.
Interesting.
I let one arm go down, I can do shoulders, I put it around a thing, I can do chest.
Yeah.
And what it does is it means there's no excuse. Hotel doesn't have a gym.
Yeah.
Gym's closed, trapped in the airport. Like I tick the box of did I work out today? Did I
Yeah.
lift today? Every single day.
That's the thing is like you either like make a plan or make excuses. Like you can come up with every excuse not to do it, especially when you're traveling. But if I'm in the hotel, I'll try to do like 100 push-ups, 75, and then sets of 50, like 2 or 3, just so you get like 200-300 push-ups, which to someone who doesn't work out sounds like a lot, but someone who works out, you're like, okay, that was, you know, a placeholder. It's not really working out per se, but it's like enough that you're getting some resistance training and enough of that like endorphin rush that you're like, all right, at least I did something. I mean, in addition to obviously running in the morning.
Yeah, you're able to maintain. You're not breaking the rhythm.
That's right.
Like for me, it's like that's why I don't take days off.
Exactly.
Because then you break the rhythm. It's like cheat days.
That's right.
Doesn't mean I don't cheat.
Yeah.
Came home last night, like my kids had all these chocolate bars. I didn't stop till all the chocolate was gone. Like it's fine. I totally don't. But like to schedule a cheat day, like I'll just fall off that cliff.
I agree with you.
That's why I don't take days. Hotels, push-ups, air squats. Like I just need to tick the box in my head that says, did I make that effort?
Exactly.
Like, did I sit back and just watch Netflix for those 2 hours after I got off the plane and before I fell asleep? Or did I say, nope, and like lay out the fucking towel on the shitty stained carpet of the Marriott, do my push-ups, take my rubber band out and start figuring out curls, like wrap it around something, like figure out how to do like some sort of tricep exercises, but it's like that box has got to be ticked every day.
Yeah.
Otherwise the day was sort of a failure for me.
And your wife, she's supportive of that, or she like thinks you're crazy?
She doesn't give a shit. My wife is like one of the genetic freaks who, she likes exercise. She does her Pilates sometimes, but like she's had this amazing like, she was like the sexy bikini babe her whole life.
Yeah.
Had 2 kids, did nothing, and got the sexy bikini body back.
Yep.
For no work, just stays in bed, and his body just becomes perfect. So she doesn't have like any appreciation for it, but she respects the fact that it's extremely important to me.
Yeah.
You know, like even this morning, I was like, "What are we doing? What would you like? Anything special for Mother's Day this weekend?" And she's like, "No, not really." And I was like, "Cool." Because for me, what I'd like to do for Mother's Day is to make sure I've got like a good block of time in the gym. And I said it as a joke,
Yeah.
just a jab. And she was like, she started laughing and she's like, actually, I do have to take our daughter somewhere in the afternoon if you want to go to the gym then. And I was like, okay, thank you for that. It was just a joke, but it just shows that she does respect that and she appreciates it.
My wife is the same exact way. I only ask because I have some friends where it's like a bone of contention with their partner. Like, you're working out again? My wife knows that for me to be the best version of myself, I have to get this over with. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like anxious all day and like kind of like feeling like something's missing. So she's been very supportive of that. And once in a blue moon, she'll throw me a bone and be like, man, it's really inspiring how hard you're working. Not a lot, but just enough to keep me like motivated where I'm like, oh, someone's actually paying attention. Not that obviously you can't train the way we do for the accolades from others. But when someone recognizes it, it's kind of like, oh, I thought I was the only one that noticed.
Yeah, my wife's never said that to me. But, you know, we've only been together for 17 years, so maybe.
Same as me.
Try to stick with it. Maybe. She does show up to the finish line of the New York City Marathon every year, but I think it's just because she's in an area that has good snacks.
See, that's a nice perk of running so much that you get appreciated by the marathon, that you get that VIP access.
New York City Marathon is my favorite race. This is going to be...
Oh my God, it's my least favorite.
It's such a challenging
Such
course.
a clusterfuck.
That I think this year is going to be my 9th in New York.
And first sub 3.
I'm going to try. The pressure's off, man. That box has been ticked.
Nice one.
I did chest last night.
You want to go sit outside now?
Let's go sit outside.
I never even knew you as a YouTuber. Like, I knew your name, but I only know you as a runner. And the first time I think I was really aware of you was when Lance ran with you. I mean, I'd heard the name and then I saw Lance running with you and I was like, oh, that kid's a runner? Huh. So with the YouTube stuff, like, I don't know how many people in the running community know about your deep background with YouTube. Like, I was sitting with my book agent yesterday at lunch and I was like, oh, I'm going down to hang with my buddy Casey Neistat tomorrow. And they're like, oh, dude, the OG YouTuber. And I was like, yeah, but he's a runner too, you know? And they're like, oh, is he a runner? And I'm like, Yeah, but isn't that part of his YouTube thing? They're like, no, I only knew him for like skateboarding through an airport and
Yeah.
on an airplane with a camera. How did you get started in YouTube for the people who don't know you as the YouTuber? Like, how did
Yeah, I
that?
mean, my background was in like the traditional film world. You know, like I made feature films, feature documentaries. I produced a couple feature films. I had,
As a kid, you were into this?
I mean, as a kid, I wanted to do it.
Okay.
I maxed out my credit card when I was like 19 to buy the first computer you could edit on. But it was always sort of the ambition. I never went to school for it or anything, but I always loved it. And I made a TV show with my older brother Van that HBO bought. And we sold it to HBO in like 2007, I think is when they bought it, 2008. And what the show looks like, if you see it now, is it just looks like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
It just looks like a somewhat well-made YouTube video, and it did okay on HBO, but not great.
When they bought it, how happy were you?
It was a huge deal.
Yeah, because if you're a kid and you want to be a filmmaker and HBO back before YouTube buys your thing, like that's the only way you're getting discovered. There was no like create your own magic.
That's right. I mean, there was like, that is what the entire industry, the entire media industry was. And we've seen it change the last 10 years, but that's what it was. It was a series of gatekeepers. And those gatekeepers had all the agency. They got to decide whether your stuff was good, whether you got to show it in a film festival, whether you got to have it on television, whether you got to get paid for it, whether you got to get the budget for it. And YouTube really, I mean, self-distribution, having a cell phone that shoots 4K video just destroyed that whole thing. You know, like filmmaking is now an entirely accessible medium, the way that painting is, or the way that recording music is, as long as you've got a microphone and an iPad. And it's great to see sort of the democratization of such an elitist art form. And I think it's mostly luck, my own personal timing, that I get to have that decade in the traditional film world to learn. And then ultimately, like, HBO didn't give us a second season. And I was like, I fucking love making this kind of work.
Yeah.
I like this so much more than producing big films. I like this so much more than the film festival universe. Let me keep doing it. And then I just sort of transferred that to YouTube. And in 2014, I got really serious about focusing just on YouTube.
And so what did you do? You started putting a vlog up every day?
Yeah, like that was the big, that's when things really changed. Like I had a lot of success on YouTube prior to that. I made short videos for like the New York Times.
Okay.
And part of my arrangement with them is that I would put it on the New York Times, but it would also go on my YouTube channel.
Yep.
And they were kind of social commentary videos, like a video about how New York City tried to ban large sodas, which is like sort of an absurdist thing. And like,
Yeah.
let me try to explain that. A movie about bicycle theft in New York City. Those sorts of topics are the videos that I would make for the New York Times. And they always did well. Like, they always had a very decent viewership, but it wasn't a built-in audience there that was, figuratively subscribing to my content. It was just a one-off. I liked that video and I watched it. And then in 2015, when I started a daily show on YouTube, which is I put out a new movie every single day, 7 days a week, and it was about 10 minutes long, that my audience just exploded.
One of the things that I love about this new like social media / YouTube culture is that, like you said, there's no more elitist bullshit. There's no more gatekeepers. If you want to be successful, you can do anything. Not only that, you can teach us. You could give yourself a PhD level education on YouTube just by putting in the work. And I love that it levels the playing field and eliminates the elitist gatekeeper specifically. And it's like, I use the example of that girl, Issa Rae, who makes the show Insecure on HBO. She had, I forget what the show was called on YouTube, like Insecure Black Girl, something to that effect. But she was just like, okay, I don't know if she could or couldn't get into Hollywood, but just started making her own content. It was so good that HBO eventually gave her a show. Now she's a huge movie star, and it's just like, I think of her as an example of someone who just like broke the door down and like, yeah, okay, I'll do it myself. And then not only do you avoid all the gatekeeper shit, but now you can almost dictate your price because you're in such demand. Like someone like you who has such an audience that if you did want to make something for mainstream media or like the traditional networks, you have some leverage to be like, here's what I can deliver.
Yeah, it's not just about the creativity anymore, it's about the audience. It's like the reason why I don't have a lot of enthusiasm for working in more traditional formats, be it a big streamer on television, is that my audience is my audience, my built-in audience that I have unique access to, that's only my audience, it rivals that of any cable news network. You know, like I have that, so I don't need the distribution. I have the distribution, and in a lot of cases, it would be compromising that distribution to work with someone else.
Yeah.
Most welcome to New York City.
This one I love. About being in
Helicopters
New
and
York.
sirens. Most, most television networks don't have the numbers and viewership that I personally have. You look at Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is doing, twice the viewership of the Super Bowl with every video that he puts out.
It's insane.
So where else would he be able to reach such a broad audience? And Issa Rae is a fantastic example of demonstrating the power of that, wherein you used to have to make a reel of who you are and get that reel in front of somebody, and then they got to decide, I don't like this person or I like this person.
Yep.
She, like so many others, said, why do that? Let me just put it in front of the world. And if they like it, they're going to tune in.
Yep.
And then she was able to build such a fantastic, dynamic career off of that. And there's a lot of those stories. On the other end of the spectrum is someone like a Joe Rogan.
Yes.
Well, certainly his success with his podcast was in the unique podcast distribution. But I know, I discovered his work on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because my favorite way still to listen to podcasts is to click play on YouTube, and then I'm just working in my office. And I'll glance over every once in a while, but I don't really watch it.
Yeah.
I just like that. I like that better than having it on my phone or something else. And the little quick clips where he's got 10-minute cut downs. This is my favorite way to interact. It's how I found, Andrew Schultz, who's now a super good friend of mine, a wonderful guy, incredible podcaster.
Yeah.
But it was through one of those clips. So again, instead of these individuals having to knock on doors saying, please, can I have a distribution deal? I have this idea for a radio show. This is what it's going to look like, and climbing that ladder, I said, fuck it. Let me put all of my focus on making the best thing I can make and let it find its own audience. And invariably, it will.
That's what I was going to use Rogan as an example, because he's done the same thing to a certain extent with mainstream media and news. Joe has real conversations with real people, whether you agree or disagree. But watching the mainstream media spiral out of control in a fit of rage at the audience he's built, and then to try and tear him down during COVID was almost comical. It was like hysterical little kids screaming don't pay attention to him, which only grew the audience. That part of this democratization of the media has been so enlightening and fun to watch for me, because I love watching the elitists be damn it, why are they paying attention to him? Because he's telling the truth and not afraid to have differing opinions on.
Yeah, I think that underscores what's become so problematic about cable television news is just the format itself is you've got a 4 minutes worth of commercials that runs every 12 or 15 minutes. And therefore, you have to really compartmentalize messages. And I think what podcasting has done, what Joe Rogan really ushered in is let's have a conversation for 2 hours about something. And it makes it the opportunity to clip something out of context and paint it in a certain way is certainly a liability and a risk of that. But listeners who tune in for the entire breadth of the conversation then get access to a sort of flow of information that just would never work, just technically would never work on news. I remember way back in the day, in the early 2000s, when Howard Stern would have celebrities on for a celebrity interview, you would get to hear Howard talk to these celebrities for a full hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And then that same night, the celebrity would be on Letterman, because they're promoting their fucking movie or whatever. And on Letterman, you'd have 4 minutes with these sort of rehearsed little back and forths. Yep. And on Letterman, you're is this a real person? Because I was listening to them talk for an hour to Howard Stern this morning, and I felt like I knew them.
Yeah.
And this feels like a cartoon caricature version of that person. And when it comes to a celebrity promoting a movie, it's one thing. But when it comes to talking about truly important information, whether it's news, whether it's a COVID situation, whether it's the state of the world, whether it's health, mental health, any of those subjects, it becomes really, really dangerous and really difficult to compartmentalize these wildly nuanced and complex subject matters into these little sound bites, which has become the format of sort of the 24-hour news cycle.
One of the things that this new media form has really highlighted is how biased the media can be. I can't watch a news broadcast, regardless of if I agree or disagree with the topic, without thinking, Who produced that? What's the agenda? What's the message they're trying to send? If nothing else, that's what I've gained from this current state of affairs, where I can like think about things objectively, is like, this seems really biased. Even if I agree with them, I'm like, I would like to hear the other side of that argument presented alongside this, which I think is what Joe does in particular, is he'll have on people that he might disagree with if they agree to come on the show. I don't think most people would agree to come on and debate a lot of the times when they disagree with Joe, but I think he tries to be very fair, at least that's the way it presents to me.
Yeah, I also think that like from a broader perspective, that underscores what's so kind of virtuous about platforms like YouTube, is that you can pick a subject matter, or you can pick a controversial subject matter. You can look at the presidential election and what Joe Biden says versus what Trump says, and you can click on a video and you can watch it and you can feel that bias.
Yeah.
You can feel that bias by whoever put together that video, but then there's a column next to it where you can click on that and get an alternate perspective.
Yes.
And I think that like that is something entirely new. Like, unless you were the guy who would go buy like the New York Times, which is way more sort of liberal leaning, and then you buy the New York Post, which is pretty conservative leaning, and you're going to sit there and read them back and forth, which is an entirely impractical way of consuming information. I think with new media, with YouTube, you're able to just tap into fresh and different perspectives in a way that we've never had access to before.
Yeah.
And I think that that's great, but I also think we're seeing some like, there's just too much fucking information out there, and sensationalism always leads to a bigger audience. So like the more radical you can be, the bigger your audience can grow, and how that skews things. I am a fan of Elon's take and what he's trying to do on Twitter, on X, which is to make it a totally open plane for free speech. Like I'm a free speech absolutist. But it's fucking tough when it's like, you know, like you never really understand what it means to really believe in free speech until people are saying things you fucking hate.
Yep.
Until people are saying things that you completely disagree with. Like, it's easy to say I believe in free speech when people are standing up for something that you're on the side of. But then you see like the fucking Ku Klux Klan marching down the street and you're like, I gotta fight for their right to do this.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. And if you really believe in free speech, it has to be absolute. And I think that is what's great about the internet. And I think that we're starting to see like some of the dangers of trying to figure out this new medium, which is social media and the internet. How does this new medium sort of interact with this idea of absolute free speech? How do we be responsible with that?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things to learn. And then there's a lot of things that are fucking horrific, like all the Twitter files. I don't know if you paid attention to that stuff.
Of course.
And but like you read that and you're like, what the fuck? Or like even around COVID. And like I'm the guy, like I was like the first guy to get the shot because I worked in a homeless clinic.
Same.
And like I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do.
Same.
But even then, when I like disagreed with these alternate perspectives, I disagreed with people who were like shouting it down. In a million years, I was never like, you can't take these people, you can't take away their platforms for
100%.
saying that. Let them say it and then let me decide whether or
That's
not I
right.
agree with them. And I do think that social media, like in its purest, it enables for that in a way that should better the world. I just think it's so new. We're still figuring it out, and that's why it still is problematic.
Yeah, I agree. Switching gears, you mentioned earlier about smoking weed. How much of a role, and I tie that into like mental health, and I think about how much of the mental health journey has running played in your own mental health journey. Like for me, I think of running as like my own natural antidepressant. Like if I don't do it, I put it this way, I'm not doing it. Unless there's some kind of like I have a broken leg, hurricane, tornado, I've run in everything. I can't not do it because of the antidepressant effects that I get from it. It keeps me regulated.
Yeah, I have to. I mean, I have a very literal broken foot right now, and luckily I've like found something that I can do, which enables me to get my heart rate up to some stupid level and keep it there for 2 hours a day. But I have to do it. I've had therapists. I've been fired by 2 therapists. I've just never figured that out. I don't like drugs. I don't take any drugs. you know, like even weed, which I like weed. I think it makes me a more calm person. I can't smoke weed, man. I can't handle the fucking munchies, and I feel stupid. I get all introspective and insecure. So like, I really, I'm glad that it's legal, at least here in New York it is. I think weed is a really good drug for people who have a good relationship with it. I can't fucking figure it out, so I just don't smoke weed. I don't drink. I have no issue with alcohol. It's just like, my favorite thing in the world is getting up really early and exercising really hard.
Yep.
And one beer will like slow me down, so just don't do it. It is running, and it's for so many reasons. And it's I don't take days off.
Yeah.
I would be a better runner if I took a day or two a week off.
You're preaching to the choir.
And I can't do it because what that means is a terrible day.
Yep.
I have to wake up 7 days a week and start my day doing something impossible. I'm every day. It's every day. It's 7 days a week. I'll get up at 5 in the morning and go work out for 2 hours and come back at 7, and then like on a Saturday, and then like by 11 a.m. be hunched over asleep on the couch. But I have to have it at the start of the day.
Yep.
Because it's a fucking win.
Yes.
And when you start your day with this huge victory, like everything, the rest of the day is great.
Yep.
It's like you've won the day by 7 a.m. and not having that fucks everything up for me. So I have to have it. Like you run through tornadoes. Like we had this bomb cyclone in New York City where it was so cold they canceled school and you couldn't have skin exposed. And I got up that morning, and it's one of the only days where I've ever made it end to end on the Brooklyn Bridge without seeing one other human. There were no cops out. There was no one out. And I ran in ski goggles and a balaclava, and like I ran in my snowboarding gear. But I did 10 miles that morning.
Yeah.
And like, there's just no way I was going to not do it.
Yep.
I remember the last big, huge snowstorm we had was probably 10 years ago, where 2 feet of snow on the ground. I remember like an entire fire department coming out and just applauding at me and my asshole friend because we're trying to run through like thigh deep snow in Manhattan. But like, I can't not do it.
Yep.
I can't take that day off. We take our kids to Disney World for my daughter's birthday in October. And like, I was up at 4 in the morning because we had a busy Disney day, and I was running. And I was getting yelled at for running through their golf courses in the middle of the night. I didn't know what the fuck I was up to. I can't not do it.
Yeah.
It is like purely my source of happiness. I live with 3 women, 4 if you count my poodle. And like my only me time, right, to think and figure shit out and understand things and turn off the music and just be introspective or play a book on tape and like think about and learn new things. The only time I get that in life is when I'm running. And it is the thing I value the most.
We took the kids to Alta skiing this year, and every day, and it was snowing every single day, which was great for skiing, but it sucked for running. But I would just run, and if you've ever been to Alta, it's like up in a canyon, and it's just on an incline, and then it's steep. And all I did was run back and forth. I tried to get in a parking lot and run around, but then they were directing the cars, the people arriving early. So I'm running around the parking lot, and people are looking at me like I'm crazy, like, what? We're getting ready to run. We're getting ready to ski. This guy's exercising now. Like, this is going to be our exercise. But for me, I have a much more enjoyable time on the slopes once I've handled my business. Because like I said, I treat this running and training like I said earlier, this is my top priority and my number one responsibility. Everyone has one main responsibility that you're born with, and it's yours forever, is to take care of yourself. No one else is going to take care of you. No one's going to decide what you eat. You are. But it's like, if you don't apply some discipline and take some responsibility for that, it's just, I don't know, it shows like real neglect and weakness at times not to prioritize that. Because this is the body, you live in this, right? People will spend gazillion dollars on their house, but like completely neglect the thing that they live in 24/7. It just blows my mind. So for me, that has to be done first, even if it involves running up and down the side of a mountain.
Yeah, I was in Alaska. I think we only did 4.5 miles before we just had to give up. There's a fucking ice storm in Alaska, and we kept falling on the ice. We still did it. We're out in the middle of the night running in Alaska. But no, I get it. And I think that as I've gotten older, I've appreciated that more. You know, I think that a lot of young men, me especially, like when I was young, I had this aura of invincibility. Like I was fit, I was strong, I was a fighter, all that shit. And I was also like drinking and partying and having fun. And like, I remember like my buddy and I getting so blackout drunk and then waking up and doing a 5K, like my wife had to drive us to because we were still drunk and running a 5K drunk.
Yeah.
And just still doing it in 17 minutes. But I'm 43 now. And one, it's like, if I want to fuck off, we go on vacation for a week and I eat whatever I want. When I'm back, I weigh 12 pounds more.
Yeah.
That didn't happen before.
Yep.
If I want to have a few drinks now, I don't like have to shake it off and a jog in the morning. I'm out for like 3 days if I get drunk. So it becomes so much more aware of it, and I appreciate it so much more. And it's like, I'm 43, I can run just as fast, I can jump just as high, I can fuck just as well as I did when I was 22. And like, I want that for as long as I can maintain that.
Yep.
I don't want to like be that guy. I don't want to be that guy who like has trouble getting in and out of his car. I don't want to be that guy who like can't keep up with my little daughters.
Yep.
And the only thing that stands between me and like maintaining this and keeping this is work. So it's like no big deal. I'll just do the work. I will just skip the Oreo and have the fucking dry salmon again. I will just like instead of going to sleep early and clicking one more episode on Netflix, I'll go down to the gym. Instead of like clicking the snooze, I'm gonna get up and go out and run. And I'm not just gonna do it because I have to do it. I'm gonna fucking learn to love it. I'm gonna make myself love it. And that has become something I'm so much more self-aware of as I get older.
I think people don't appreciate how, not easily, but how convincingly you can change your perspective. Like you said, hit the snooze button. I don't think I've hit a snooze button since I'm like in my 20s.
Ever.
Like it would be completely foreign to me. I'm like, oh shit, it's time to get up, let's go. I've set the clock so I can get up, have a cup of coffee and go run. Like there's no like time for fuckery in there. It's like, oh, time to go. Even my wife would be like, oh, aren't you tired? I'm like, I'm exhausted. Everything hurts. But I know that the pain that I'll feel if I don't do this will suck for the whole day. So like, I'd rather just be uncomfortable for the next few minutes while I try to force myself through this routine.
Yeah, I don't always do it. I fail a lot, but I try to have a rule, which is I got a lot of rules. Never complain.
Yeah.
Because if you say it, it becomes something. If you never say it, I think Jesse Itzler said like, he's telling some story where he talked about how like when somebody says, how are you doing?
Yeah.
The only response is, I'm terrific.
Yeah.
And like, I understand how some can be problematic and embrace your feelings. Fuck all that stuff. Like, no, you don't complain.
Yeah.
You don't complain. If there's a problem, you solve it. It was like, what would what would Jocko Willink do? WWJWD. Like, what would Jocko say about that shit? And it's like, there's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
You got two options. You can fix it, or you got to deal with it. Complaining does nothing.
Yep.
Like, no. So like, aren't you tired at 5 in the morning? Fuck no, I'm not tired. I'm psyched to run. Say it enough, you'll start to believe it. And like, that's how I feel. Like, am I psyched that I have the same lunch every day, 5 days a week? I don't know. But I've convinced myself it's the greatest thing in the fucking world. I have the same thing every day.
Yep.
I show up at the same place every day, and I'm psyched. I'm frothing when I go in there. I'm psyched. And I don't know if it's just a mind over matter thing. I don't know. But like, never letting myself be like, ugh, maybe we should go get burgers and fries. I don't fucking want burgers and fries.
Oh, I want burgers and fries. I just don't know if I'm going to do it. One of the things you talked about, we were just talking about off camera, is like the thought of when there's a crisis in the city, like an airplane going down in the river, and like, what's everyone else, less concerned about what you're going to do, more concerned about like, what's everyone around here going to do? I've got a funny story for you about that topic. We recorded a boxing some content for the Fight podcast at Trinity Boxing Club, and we wrapped at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon during the week. And I went to get on the subway, and it's like, rush hour. And we're on the subway like this. So there's like a Hispanic dude, probably in his 20s or 30s, construction guy, and a black guy who might have been homeless, all disheveled, gets on. So as the black guy is getting on, he bumps the Spanish guy, and he's like, oh, okay, the guy moves over and he goes, fucking bag or something about his backpack. And he goes, the Hispanic guy turns around and he goes, what the fuck did you say? He's like, get your fucking backpack out of the way. Now we're like this, and there's women and everything. And the black guy says to her, I got something for you right here. And he's like, you're gonna stab me? Now, they're about to fight, right? I don't know why I was just like, guys, cut the fucking shit. There's women and kids on the train, dude. And I looked at the Spanish guy. I was like, dude, please, go sit over there, buddy. Relax. And then they just started yelling at each other. And the Hispanic guy says to the black guy, like, you ain't going to do shit with that knife. You know how I know? Because if you were going to do something, you would have already done it. And I was like, he's got a point. He's got a point. And then eventually they stayed away from each other. But I was telling my wife, she's like, why'd you get involved? I was like, the problem was averted. Like if I had stood there, maybe the guy actually takes the knife out and starts stabbing him. Then I'm wrestling with a guy. I can't watch someone kill someone. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I'd rather try and get in front of it before knives are flying. But yeah, you always find out a lot about people, how they behave in a crisis. And on the surface, I'd be like, yeah, I'm just going to get away from this. But when it happens, you're like, no, 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 no.
New York is like such a weird. It's. I remember talking. We lived in California for a year or two, and I told my older brother, I was like, we're moving back to New York, and he was like, why are you moving back to New York? And I was like, it's just, I don't know. I don't like being around all these people in LA. And he was like, so you're moving to New York City? And I was like, I can see how that doesn't make any sense. But what I said to him was, it's like, New York's the only place in the world where you can be constantly surrounded by other people and be entirely alone all the time.
Yep.
Because no one really gives a shit about you. Like, everybody's in their own world. But I do think the subway is a bit of an exception to that rule, because you see some fucked up shit on the subway.
I feel unsafe on the subway.
Do you? I mean,
Lately, I do. The last 5 or 10 years, when I lived here from like 96 to 13, I was just like, oh, subway. Now when I get on the subway, I'm like hyper aware. I took the kids in here last summer with my wife, and I was just like, guys, stay right next to me. I feel like it's gotten more.
You're that guy.
Well, a little more dangerous. Well, when I have my kids, I'm like, guys, stay close to me.
My kids are swinging from the bars like like little chimpanzees. We don't use our whole world is in kind of one neighborhood, and then I like to skateboard, so I seldom use the subway. But I think my favorite thing about living in the city is the fact that we don't really use cars much.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you earlier, my 9-year-old daughter has her average per day step count on her Apple Watch is 13,000 steps a day.
It's crazy.
It's just like you fall into this place in New York City where you sort of you carve out your own little neighborhood, and you're constantly moving. And that certainly dovetails so much about what we're talking about with health. It's like passive fitness, passive exercise, I think is really impactful. And when I lived outside of the city, I think you really forget, you neglect just how much time you're spending in your car, just how much time you're spending not physically moving. And one of the aspects of living in a city that's as walkable as New York is that like there's always an opportunity for constant movement, always. And I absolutely cherish that, except when there's two guys trying to stab each other. I think it's a little strange.
I know you recently broke 3 hours in the marathon. Congratulations. I was so happy for you because I know how important it is when you set a goal like that. But how important is competitiveness in your fitness journey? Like, in other words, for me, everything's a competition. For better or worse, I don't try to put my beliefs on other people, but that's how I measure, like, am I getting better? I'm doing my work every day, but every so often I need a test. I want to do a race, and I want to see where I am versus everyone else. Like I said, for better or worse. How important is the competitive aspect to you versus just the fitness journey?
I mean, so I used to be really into triathlons. And like Olympic distance was sort of my distance, and I was competitive. And I used to win a lot, and it was really important then. And I think that, like, thinking back on that, my favorite aspect of that was sort of the mental part where you see people giving 110% in the swim, and me being like, fuck you, man, I'll see you on the run. I'll see you on the fucking run. And like trying to pass somebody on a bike, and like, how quickly can I get out of my my cycling shoes and get on my running shoes? And then like, when do I fucking hit the gas to get in front? That was really exciting for me, but I wasn't that good. I was just good enough to win like age groups and regional races.
Yeah.
But when it comes to running, I think like, and this is a platitude, this is trite, everyone's heard this before, but the magic of running, and the reason why I fucking love pinning a bib on, is you're racing against every other time you've ever done.
Yep.
I've got two friends here, brothers, Sam and Jerome, super great guys, really good athletes. And I like really pushed them. I was like, go sign up for any race with a bib. Just pin on the fucking bib. And they did like some 5K or some 3 mile or 10K, something like that. And they're like, whoa, it just changes everything. Because if you did that 5K, it took you 25 minutes, then, you're just thinking like, I wonder if I could get to 24.
Yep.
I wonder if there's ever a place where I could get to 22. And it's like, well, I did it on the West Side Highway, but like, it doesn't really count. It's my watch.
And I didn't have a bib on.
I didn't have a bib on. I got to go do it again. And for me, like, that's what competitiveness has become. And my only goal was to break 3 hours in a marathon. It took 17 years and 25 attempts. And it's funny because you and I both, Neve, our good friend, like he did it in like his second race. My friend this past weekend did it in his second ever race. Like I think for some people, 3 hours, if you ran 3 hours now, it'd be the slowest marathon you've run in a decade. And something I didn't talk about, I made a movie about breaking 3 hours, about my 17-year journey. I didn't put any excuses in that movie because I don't believe in excuses. But the reason why 3 hours for me is, a sub 2 for an Olympic marathon, I was like, I'm a bigger guy. My entire right leg's made out of metal. I have no business running. My feet are as flat as Donald Duck's. I've got so many broken bones. Like I don't have it. So for me to get to that threshold is everything I'm capable of.
Yeah.
It's everything I've got. And that's why I romanticize that specific number.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's some version for you. There's some version for everyone of like, what is that thing that is like the absolute apex of what I'm capable of? And like after doing that many marathons, after doing, 24 marathons, I like, okay, it's not a lack of fucking effort. Like, I don't care who trains me and how much time I spend doing it. I will never be able to play basketball like Michael Jordan.
Yep,
I will never be able to compete with LeBron, no matter what. I will never run a 2:02 marathon. There's no way this body could do it. A fucking Honda Civic, I don't care what tires you put on it, it will never go faster than a Bugatti. You'll never get it there.
That's right.
Not in the high-end speed. Like you're never going to get it to go 260 miles an hour. It's a fucking Honda Civic. And I have I have the Toyota Tacoma of like I'm not built for speed or distance.
Yep.
And 3 hours was me discovering like that's the fucking top of Everest. Like that's it. And the joke that I say is it's like I was never 100% sure that I would accomplish it. I would never give up trying, but I was never 100% sure I'd accomplish it. But now that I've done it, I'm 100% sure I'll never do it again.
I disagree. I think you'll do it again. But to your point about pinning on a bib, there's something about putting that bib on your jersey with that, like, the nerves and the anxiety. And when I described it to my wife, she's like, so why do you even bother? I'm like, I can't tell you why. Like, yes, on the surface, I understand why you say it. Why would you do that? But it makes me feel alive. It's like, I saw Huberman talking about this the other day. There's some part of your brain that has some, I forget the name of it, but it has plasticity, meaning it can be enlarged and it can be adaptive. And when you do things that you don't want to do, getting sober, doing hard challenges, that part of your brain becomes very active and can actually like expand in size. I think that's how he described it. But I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. Because there are things that I do, like I'm going to do this new High Rocks race in June, and 49.99% of my body is like, fuck that. I'm not doing this. Why? I can only lose. If I don't win, everyone's like, I beat that guy. And even if that's not true, that's what I'm telling myself. So I'm like, why am I doing this? But there's an extra 0.01% that's like, fuck you. I'm going to show up. I'm killing everyone. I'm winning this thing, which is irrational. But that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. It's just, if you can tap into that, it's a special thing. And the thing is, there's a version of that for everyone.
That's right.
There's a version of that for everyone. My older sister is like, she's a dietitian. She is very conscious of health in a way that's so much more intelligent. She's gonna outlive both of us. She's not a fucking asshole out there trying to run marathons every week. But when she did do her marathons, she was like a 5-hour marathoner. And for her, like that, she fucking won the day.
Yep.
She won the day. And now it's like her fitness journey now is something so much more intelligent and it's so complete. And for her, that is her version of winning the day. And your version is not fucking losing this race, or at least just getting to the point where you put on the bib.
Yep.
But I think finding that, it manifests differently for everyone. My wife's goal this summer is to like go do her Pilates 5 times a week. If she gets it 3 times a week, it will be like the biggest victory for her.
Yep.
Her goal last summer was to show up, period. And she did it. That's her victory. And I think that if you pay attention to that, like you ignore everybody else and you say, what's my goal? What does my finish line look like? For my buddy Sam, it was showing up and putting on the bib for the first time. I had him do the Brooklyn Half Marathon with me last year. His goal was to do it in 2 hours, which is a hell of a time.
Yep.
It's a hell of a time. Came across the finish line in 1:59.
Oh, it's so great.
He did it. That was his journey.
That's it.
So I think it's like, if I had advice for people who are starting out, it's like, just go. And along the way, you're going to find what that journey is for you. And once you find it, it's like, it is so gratifying. No one pays attention to it. Like I post my I post my run sometimes on Instagram. That's masturbation. That's all that is. Like my wife says,
I'm
why
with
are
you.
you always posting it? I'm like, I do it for me. You
Yeah.
know, like I like it for me.
Hey,
It
look
feels
what
like
I did.
accountability. Yeah.
Look at me.
It's like, wow, look at me. Look what I did. Look what I can do. Like that's what it is. Like there's nothing. I don't do that because I'm trying to compete with other people. I'm not trying to do it
Agreed.
because I'm trying to flex on someone. That is like it's a little stupid, narcissistic thing that I do. But it like makes me want to go the next day.
Yep.
Like it makes me want to do that. Like my fucking foot's broken, so when I get on that stupid stair climber because I can't run, it's like I'm gonna click start on whatever movie I've watched 50 times. I watched the French Connection again yesterday, and I'm not gonna stop climbing the steps until this movie's over. Like that's my day, that's my journey, that's the finish line. And if I stop halfway through, because I'm like, oof, too much, like I'm gonna be like, fuck, I lost.
Yep.
I lost.
That's the message that I'm trying to convey, and I'm glad you hit on that because I think sometimes there's a misconception that I think you have to get out there and try and win against others.
No.
You summed it up perfectly. Just show up and set a goal and win the day for yourself. Most of the competition I do is against myself. It just so happens that I also like to beat everybody else, but that doesn't mean I want other people to for that to be their journey. You summed it up perfectly. Just win the day. Just get out there and do it for yourself, but have some goals, have some physical goals. And to people who haven't tried a race or tried something of a physical competitive nature, I say, just get out there and give it a shot. It becomes contagious. And the training is like, the racing is is like a byproduct. The real magic is in the process of getting it done, like the day to day, getting in that routine and the feelings that you get from accomplishing these goals.
Yeah, there's satisfaction in that. Do hard, like the secret to happiness is doing hard things. There's an inverse relationship between like the hotter the fire, the harder the steel. The harder the thing, the happier it's going to make you in life. I think of that like in the most existential way. Like there's nothing harder for me than marriage. Like my wife and I have never been happier than we are right now, and I mean that when I say it. But like sharing your life with someone is fucking hard. But the
100%.
reward for it is you get to share your life with someone. Being a parent is really hard. You have to give up everything. And the reward for that is getting to experience a version of love that is absent in any other relationship. Getting up every day and running is really hard. And the reward for that is like maybe I'll get to live longer. And even if I don't, while I'm alive, I get to be healthy and fit and have a body that takes me places that otherwise wouldn't. So I think like having an appreciation of that, it makes you love the hard, because the hard is the only way to get that other stuff. If you want life to be easy, I call it straight to the middle. If you want your life to be straight to the middle, sure, you can avoid any challenges in life, but don't expect to experience anything great in life either. Don't expect to ever really understand what happiness is, what joy is. Don't ever expect to understand what it feels like to win if all you ever do is play it safe. You're just following that line in the middle. It's a life that is a cup of lukewarm milk. It's perfectly benign and nothing.
And that's the perfect place to end this, and the perfect summation. Thank you.
Thanks for the
doing this,
workout.
Ron. I
Yeah, this is
appreciate
fun.
you.
Sorry I couldn't run with you. Maybe my foot will be healed next time. I'm gonna limp off frame. I don't have a limp, but for dramatic effect.